Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I'm going to be talking about probably the most frequently asked question I get here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, literally every venue of communication I have, I've been asked this question. And that is, how do you 13B swap, or how much does a 13B swap cost? What do you need for it? So I'm going to answer a lot of those questions here in that video. So if you're looking to 13B swap, or you're hesitant if you should or whatnot, this is the video for you. So I'll get it out of the way immediately. How much did it cost? I'd say, again, I didn't really keep a running tally, but I'd say probably about $2,000 to $2,500 for the swap. That includes buying the engine, buying all the parts, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but I would say at least set aside $2,000 to $2,500. Now, if you use less, great. You might use a little bit more. It really all depends on how you want to build it, because there isn't a way you 13B swap. I mean, yes, there's a certain way you put the engine in, but to the extent of it, that's on you. If you want to port it, that's extra. If you want to upgrade other things, that's extra, and I'll get to that in a second. So now we're going to talk about what you need. Here I have the list saved on my phone. That's what I'm doing. So these are things you absolutely need. No questions asked. You have to do this for a 13B swap. And number one is obviously obtain a 13B in its entirety. That means intake, injectors, fuel rails, the housings, obviously, everything. You need to get an entire 13B, and that includes the igniters, and I'll talk about that in a second. If you guys haven't seen my series called Rotary Life, where I pretty much walked you guys through doing the 13B swap, I bought an entire Rx7, an FC, for $850. So when I gutted it, I pulled everything, and I had everything there. I'd recommend doing that. That way you have everything, but you can piece it together over time. You're just going to have to find someone who's selling igniters, find someone who's selling an intake, find someone who's selling rotors and housings and whatnot. Number two is an ECU. You're going to need an ECU to run the car. Stock ECU should work. I didn't have the best luck with it, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but you need an ECU. And that being said, number three is you need a harness. You need a wiring harness to run your ECU to your parts. Number four, like I said, was the 13B igniters. Those are really important. You have to have those. If you want to run aftermarket igniters, I haven't done too much research into that, but if you want to, you can. You just need the igniters. Number five is custom brackets for those igniters. I located them on the driver's side strut tower. Just made a little piece of metal that bended around and you bolt it right to it. It's just because there isn't a stock location for 13B igniters in a 12A chassis. You're going to need a 12A front cover. Now this is very important. You do absolutely need this. So if you are about to pull your 12A, keep the front cover. That'll be important for the next one. The next item is engine mount. Racing Beat sells a 12A to 13B engine mount. Or you can find one from a GSLSE, which is the highest end FB Rx7, came with a 13B, so you could get an engine mount from that, and that bleeds into the next one, which is you need a new oil pan. You need a GSLSE oil pan. Now, luckily enough, the engine mount and oil pan are sold on racingbeat.com. It's about $250 for the both of those. But you need that to then fit the subframe of the FB in the chassis. Just a regular 13B oil pan will not work. Up next, you need a fuel pump. You need a better fuel pump. That's just because the old fuel pump was carbureted. You're going to need a new one that can be run by the ECU and stuff like that. Going with that, fuel lines. Carbureted fuel lines and fuel-injected fuel lines are very different. Fuel-injected is a lot higher pressure, and the carbureted lines won't hold up to that, so you need to do new lines. Up next is oil cooler. Now, if you're running the old Beehive oil cooler, you absolutely need a new oil cooler. If not, if you already have a front-mounted oil cooler, then you're fine. But if you have that top-mounted Beehive oil cooler, you need to get a new one. You can run an FC oil cooler, or you can get a Mishimoto or whatever brand you want. I'm just saying you need a better one. You're going to need a custom throttle cable bracket. The throttle cable just has to zigzag a little bit more. Just make a custom bracket. Not a big deal. And then you're going to need a custom exhaust. Now, you could maybe do a GSL-SE exhaust. I'm not exactly sure. Everyone I've ever talked to who was 13B swapped has done something different. What I did, I had the stock header that I pulled with the car or with the motor, and I got a pipe welded all the way back to a Racing Beat muffler. So it's a custom system, really. It's a stock header, Racing Beat muffler, and custom pipe in between. So that is what you need. I know that sounds like a lot, but in the world of engine swaps, it's not a whole lot to fit a completely different, more powerful engine into the car. That's all you really need to do. The transmission will bolt up to it. Right now I have an 82 trans hooked up to a 87 engine. It works. It's not the best. I'm going to be switching to an 89 trans pretty soon here, but it will bolt up. Alright, so these are things you should do. These aren't absolute necessities, but I'd highly recommend them, and a lot of these are what I did. Actually, all of these are what I did. So number one is emissions delete. I would pay for either through Atkins Rotary or Pineapple Racing, I believe, has a set. Mazda Tricks might have it, I'm not sure, but find an emissions delete kit. I'd highly recommend Atkins. I just know that they carry it. Get an emissions delete kit. It'll simplify. It blocks off the OMP, air pump, all that stuff. It'll simplify your engine, and so there's a lot less vacuum lines running everywhere. So I'd highly recommend doing that. Number two is a custom harness and ECU. Now I know that's a lot easier said than done. I'm running a Mega Squirt ECU in my car, and it's been phenomenal. Actually, today in class, I was sitting there messing with the fuel map of my car, and I'm going to plug it in here in a little bit and mess around with it. You can set rev limiters. You can literally tune anything on a standalone ECU, and when the car's having issues, you know exactly what's happening. And with that custom harness, you can get rid of things that you don't need anymore. Just simplify it a lot. Number three, for things you should do, radiator. With a rotary, whenever you can, upgrade the cooling system. Keep the engine cool. That's all I really need to say. If you can, upgrade the radiator. Next, air filter. The stock FC air filter goes to a big box. You're not going to really be able to bolt that up anywhere, so I got a K&N cone air filter. I bought an adapter off eBay for like $10, and then the actual filter was about $50. So I just slapped that on there. Fifth one, electric fans. Highly recommend this. You'll have a lot more room in the engine bay, and it'll keep the car a lot cooler. Again, it's another space thing. It's a lot harder to put an engine in with a giant fan on the front rather than just sticking it in and then adding two little fans later. So just simplicity of putting the engine in, I'd highly recommend doing the electric fans. And last but not least, battery relocation. Again, this isn't a must, but it clears up a lot of room in the engine bay, and when you're putting an engine in, believe me, every little inch counts. So I relocated the battery to the passenger side. There's like a little boxes behind the seats. I put my battery in there, and I actually switched to a Miata battery, so it's a little bit smaller. Well, I hope this cleared some things up for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about 13B swapping, I know there's going to be some. Please leave it in the comment section down below. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys. Cause aside from my soul,